Hello, my name's David Joel, President of the Hampshire Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to talk to you about two things today. First of all, we're going to talk about what happens post-crisis. And then the second thing is we're going to signpost the next Chamber of Solutions session. To paraphrase a famous quote, you should never waste a good crisis. Crises create innovation, they force us to do differently, and they give us the opportunity to work on the business rather than just work in it. Up to now, you'll have been worrying about funding, furloughing staff, and survival. We now need to be moving to the next stage. So we need to take stock. We need to do a strategic review. Now, a lot of the things we've been doing to date, furloughing, those sorts of things, are structural things. Now remember, structure follows strategy. So if your strategy is not clear, your structural changes are going to be unanchored. And remember, a strategy delivers purpose. So one of the things we need to think about is whether our purpose is still valid. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is, are we still valid? Why do we exist, and why should anybody care? It's a key question. You know, we've had a shock to the business. The other thing you might want to ask yourself is almost have a bit of an honesty take on your company and say, if you were a financier looking at your business, would you invest in it? What would worry you? What would keep you awake at night? Because they're the things you need to think about for the business going forward. Once you've answered those things, we can then think about doing a strategic review. So doing a strategic review sounds awfully formal and almost the sort of thing you might see in a business school, but we have to do it. Most of it's common sense. The very first place you start is why you do what you do, why you exist, what is your purpose. There's a fabulous video on YouTube which I recommend you look at by a chap called Simon Sinek that looks at organisations from the perspective of why, how and what. He calls it the golden circles, and he starts with that. Once we finish this, I'd recommend you have a look at it. It gives you a bit of a framework to do your strategic review. So once we've done that strategic review, that's almost like a situational review. This is where we are now. You've got to try and look at your strategy and create something new. Now, people get very nervous when we start talking about creating strategies. People imagine armies of consultants are required to tell you what to do. But one of the most important things you can remember about a strategy is it's just a plan. So all it is, it's a plan. So you need to know what your objectives are. That's going to be tied to your purpose, of course. But you might also then say, I've got a number of ways I could deliver those objectives. And there's all sorts of formal ways that you can do this. But a public sector approach to strategy is one they say, well, we can do nothing, we can do better, or we can do different. So do nothing means we just wait for the new normal to be the same as the old normal. Do better is about being more efficient, doing more with less, might be more working from home. Do different might be completely changing your business offering. Once you've got options, you may have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever creatively you come up with. You've then got to make a choice. And making that choice can be quite tricky. How do you decide? Well, there's a lovely little framework that can help. It's sometimes called the SFA framework. And it's not a crude statement, but the S stands for suitability, the F is feasibility, and the A is acceptability. So you can look at all of those options that you put together. You're saying, is it suitable? Does it get us to where we want to be? Is it feasible? Have I got the right resource? That could be cash, people, facilities. And is it acceptable? Does it fit with my value set? Will my stakeholders still want to do business with us if we work this way? Looking at those selections is going to really cause you to think quite hard about your business. And you may have to do things that traditionally you were very comfortable doing. So we might have to apply what's sometimes called creative destruction. We're going to take the business apart and put it back together in a way that is going to help drive your business forward into the new world post-COVID. It's quite scary to do those things because you'll get a number of your colleagues, your friends, advisors, will use those magic words that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the thing that's going to give you the edge is just looking at whether actually we could do things better and a little different. But once you've made your selection, then we can go on to business planning. And I just want to talk through business planning. One of the things that is guaranteed to send a cold shiver down your spine is to produce a business plan, because you're having to commit to paper what it is you're going to do. Now, in a strategic review, you don't start with a business plan. Now, every fibre of your being is going to say, but we need that. You'll guarantee you when you go to a bank and you want funding, the first thing they ask you for is a business plan. All the business plan is the implementation plan for your chosen strategic approach in order to deliver your purpose. So don't start with the business plan. You've got to get that other stuff done first. And once we get into the business planning process, there's a clue in the title. It's about planning. We have to plan the steps that are going to get us to that strategic delivery. We're going to have to look at our capability. If we've got a capability shortfall, we're going to have to somehow bridge that gap. Now, that could be developing people, recruiting people, partnering with people, or just doing things in a completely different way. But the moment you change people's working environment and the way they operate, you're into the world of change. And it's often said that people resist change. Now, the truth is, I don't think any of us like change, but it's not the change as such that is the issue, it's the being controlled. So when we're now into this strategic review process, one of the things you've got to bear in mind is you need to be able to communicate to all the people that are going to be affected. You know, we've got that word stakeholders. Stakeholders could be customers, suppliers, and staff. But they've got to understand why this change is necessary. And if you get them bought into the why that's important, then the fear of it becomes less of an issue. So we've got to manage that change. And all the time, we're probably going to be having small amounts of creative destruction. You're going to be taking things away from people that say, well, that's how we've done it for 35 years. Well, we might now have to change. So it's about showing them why it needs to be done. People are generally smart. If they can see what you see, they'll own it and they'll do it. And of course, with any business plan, it's a prediction of the future. If any of you had the joy of trying to deal with business plans with banks, and they'll say to you, can you guarantee that business plan? And the truth is you can't. It's a prediction. I think it was the physicist Niels Bohr said, forecasting is really difficult, particularly when it's about the future. We haven't got a crystal ball. It's as good as our assumption set that goes with it. So hopefully that talk through the strategic planning process might help you. There are some questions you might ask yourself as part of it. So when we look back at the pandemic crisis that we've all been suffering from, you can actually look at your business and say, why did it have such a severe impact on me? What specific bits did it cause to malfunction and therefore give me a problem? You might also look at your business relationships, and they're with your people, with your customers, with your suppliers. And what can we do together to help get us back on the path? And part of that is you being very clear about what your purpose and your process is. Most of us are really uncomfortable thinking about change and predictions, and we like certainty, and unfortunately in business you don't get certainty. It takes courage to think about this stuff. If the crisis has worried you, and I think it's worried most of us, coming out of it will terrify you. You need a plan, you need an approach, and hopefully this approach will help. If you want to know more about this, then if you email the Chamber, Ben McDonald or Ben Applin at the Chamber, they can put you in contact with people like myself or others that can help. Or if you want to download some content, if you go to a website which is www.lansonconsultants.co.uk, there's some guidelines on there that might help you think about this stuff. So before we finish today's session, I just wanted to signpost again the Chamber of Solutions panel session. The last one again was well received. We had about 50 participants, and we were talking about alternative funding sources, things like the bounce back loans, etc. you as the members seem to value the panels. The panels are very high caliber. The next session is on the 22nd of June, and as before, you can either register through Eventbrite on the Chamber website, or you can contact Ben McDonald at the Chamber. That's either by phone or by email. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. So until the next time, stay safe.